Hello and welcome back. In this session, we're going to talk about the role hierarchy and how it can be used to facilitate record access. In the last session, we looked at the org-wide defaults and there was a checkbox for granting access using hierarchies. This must be checked in order for role hierarchy record access to work. There are a couple of key points that you need to know about the role hierarchy. The record access hierarchy does not need to be the company structure hierarchy. Record access flows up the role hierarchy. The role hierarchy does not override profile settings. And the role hierarchy influences record access, not cred permissions. So a great example of this is if a sales manager was granted access using hierarchies, he'd be able to see all of his team members' opportunity records because they would flow up to him. So let's head into Salesforce and take a closer look. We'll head into Setup, and then in the Quick Find search bar, we're going to type in Sharing Settings. We'll open that up, and then I want to point out this column here, Grant Access Using Hierarchies. This is only editable for custom objects, not for standard objects, so that's why it's grayed out when you go to edit it. It's always enabled for standard objects, and when this is checked, we can use roles and role hierarchies to help open up record access. So let's head to roles and the role hierarchy for a closer look. In the Quick Find search bar, we just need to type in roles and click on the link. Once that opens up, we're given a bit of an introduction and a couple of examples such as territory-based, product-based, or company size-based. Now it's important to point out here that the role hierarchy does not need to represent your company's organization structure. It's best to think of it as a data access hierarchy. When you grant access using hierarchies, the users above the record owner will have access to all of the records of those underneath them. So let's walk through the role hierarchy in our org so we can add a little more context. The first thing that I want to do is expand all of the roles. For these examples, we're going to imagine that the org-wide defaults are set to private, so no one should be able to see anyone else's records. However, the Grant Access Using Hierarchies feature has been enabled. At the top of the tree is the CEO. They have access to all of the records in the org, as everyone is underneath them in the hierarchy. Next, we have the CFO, COO, and SVPs. We're going to focus on the SVP of Customer Service and Support. Now they can see all the records of the customer support users, both internationally and North America, as well as the installation and repair services. However, they cannot see the records of the CEO because the CEO is above them in the hierarchy, and they cannot see the records of the CFO, COO, or the other SVPs as they are in the same level of them in the role hierarchy. Let's try one more just to make sure we understand how this works. And this time we're going to look at the Director of Direct Sales. They can see the records of the Eastern sales team and the Western sales team, but no one else's. They can't see the records for the direct or channel sales as they are at the same level of them in the hierarchy, and they cannot see the channel sales team's records as they are not part of the Director of Direct Sales subordinates. Everyone else above the director in the role hierarchy can see the director's records as well as those of the Eastern sales team. There are limitations though. Role hierarchy access does not override profile settings, so if a user's profile does not have access to the object, then it makes no difference and the user can't see those records. Users at any role level can view, edit and report on all data that's owned or shared with users below them in the role hierarchy, unless your org sharing model for objects specifies otherwise. And remember, the role hierarchy deals with record access, not cred permissions. So before we move on, let's just have a quick recap of the role hierarchy and how it can help facilitate record access. The record access hierarchy does not need to be the company structure hierarchy. Access flows up the role hierarchy, and the role hierarchy does not override profile permissions. It influences record access, not cred permissions. And the great example of that is that sales manager and his team members' opportunity records that we spoke of earlier.